This is the Tom Bigby Tales, and I'm your host, Shannon Evans. I write about a small town in northeast Mississippi on the Tombigbee River called Columbus, and sometimes, like today, I record about the rest of the state. Hey, caller. I always pretend it's like, hey, you're a caller on caller 9 on the radio station. It kind of reminds me of that. Cy, I'd love for you to introduce yourself formally and how you and I got to work together.
Yeah, my name's Cy. I'm a producer or project manager from Carnegie Mellon University. I'm currently a graduate student, and we know each other through a Mississippi John Carr Museum project, an installation, and through Mary, through Valerie, we got into touch and then talk a lot about the history behind this project and Mississippi John Carr. And and Shannon, you help our team really like sort of clear out some of the history, and then we were able to focus on what's the most important thing.
Well, so Cy, tell me a little bit about it. So you're a graduate student.
Right.
Okay. And what will be your degree? What will it be in? What will your
Oh, like the final
Mhm.
master of this.
Yeah.
Um, our program is kind of special. We have our own master degree. It's called Master of Entertainment Technology. Um, but essentially it's kind of like Master of Science plus Master of Art because it's like an in-between subject.
That's cool. I think it's just a cool. I would love to have gotten a master's in that. Instead, I have I have the couple I've collected in other areas. Statistics, yay, because everybody
Okay.
needs statistics. And then, of course, my master's in creative writing is a master of fine
Yeah,
arts. So
right.
I wish that I could have had something that could have married my knowledge of science with my math and my history and writing. But sounds like you found the perfect degree. So
People do get confused sometimes because it's so obscure. The entertainment technology, what is that? Like you have to over explain sometimes.
uh-huh. Well, so explain a little bit about the project and what we worked on because it's such a fabulous piece and the team that you worked on with
Yeah.
Mary Frances Hurt and musician Valerie Turner. Can you tell a little bit about that?
Right. So essentially, we're making a somewhat permanent installation for the museum, for Mississippi Jumper Museum. And the form of this interaction or installation is that we have an old radio that we retrofit like our entire project into. And then when you tune the
Old radio,
radio,
he means like the old tube style radio, the old,
right, a tube style radio
yeah,
from the 19, I think 59 to be
yeah.
precise, is actually like from that time period. We clean the structure inside and then replace it with all additional parts. And then on the radio, there is a timeline. Like instead of the radio channel, those
Mhm.
numbers, like let's say 108 like channel, we replace them with a timeline of Mississippi John Hart's life. So we put a lot of like important years, for example, 1928, 1963, those years into those timeline. And when the player or when the guests come over and then tune the radio, they're able to see a video sequence of Daddy John's life from that specific time. Um, yeah, and then basically the entire setup is you have a radio on like a table, and then right next to the radio there is a giant screen, like a TV screen, that plays those videos. And in between different videos, there's also Daddy John's song. So which each song is picked specifically for different chapters or
Mhm.
different like time period to like resonate with the story.
Okay. So you had to do a lot, you and your team had to do a lot of research. I know y'all worked closely with Mary Frances and you
Right.
learned a lot about John Hurt's life. And thank goodness your project was in the church part of the museum and not in the house museum.
Yeah.
So it wasn't destroyed. But how much did you know about John Hurt before you started this project?
Before personally, I do not know anything about Jumper. Like when I started to work on this project, or when I got assigned to this project, I started doing a lot of research on my own. But personally, I do not have anything prior to that.
Mhm.
Some of my team members, for example, Ezra, our programmer, his family actually was like they know about Jumper, and I think his grandfather was particularly very excited when we were able to work on this
Mhm.
project.
Okay. So how, do you want to explain how y'all landed on this particular topic for your project? I know that your
Mhm.
professor was a big, you had two professors who were a big influence on
Right.
this.
I'm not sure how we end up getting this project. I think it's a long process of like school communicating with Mary, with Valerie, and then figure out the logistics. Like sometimes I kind of joke about like I heard about this project was like in planning a couple years ago. And then by that time, we haven't even got into the school yet. So it's
Mhm.
really like kind of paving the roads for the future students. And then we're just lucky enough to be handling this project. And I mean, I think we did a pretty good job
Pretty good. I think you
comparatively.
did an outstanding job. It's
Thank you.
fabulous. I encourage anyone who is in the area to go see it. It is absolutely wonderful what y'all did.
Yeah,
So, you came, you made two trips or one trip?
two trips.
Okay. So the first trip you made was to learn about the area before the installation. So tell
Yeah.
me about your first trip.
So because I think during that time there's the memorial walk, which is pretty important for the foundation as well as for the Mississippi Junction Museum because it's a grand union like kind of event
Mhm.
for people to come
Mhm.
over and then see the do
Yeah,
some
it's been going
performance,
on for about
gather
30,
together.
35 years.
Right. So we figure it's, what better time, would it be if we just figured this is the best time for us to come and visit the venue, visit it, meet Mary Frances in person and just see what's like.
Hmm.
So we decided, I think it was around October, like early October, I think.
Hmm.
But anyway, we came and then it was very different from what I imagined. Like personally, I've never been in the South before.
So
We
where is home for you? Where did you grow up?
I come from China. My home is in Shanghai, China. I've been in
So you're
United
a city
States.
boy.
Yes,
You're
yes,
very
I'm
much
very
a
much city
big
boy.
city boy.
And
And
all the
Carnegie Mellon
places I
is
go to.
in
It's a
Pittsburgh, right?
small city. Pittsburgh is probably the least city-like environment that I
But it's
am.
still not
No,
Mississippi.
no, very much
Carroll
like
County. Carroll
very
County
far
doesn't
from
even have a
that.
city.
No. So I'm very not used to the like the general like kind of the vibe in I guess that's the word. Um, but yeah, I remember we drove a long way to the actual museum space. You had to cross it's called those like kind of sandy
Dirt
there's
roads.
that
They're
road
dirt
with a
roads.
lot of
So
sand,
yeah, they're
right? The
dirt
dirt
roads.
road, which yeah, it was just very different experience. And
Well,
then
those roads you were on were really, really old when you were
yes,
going down to the museum and
right,
to the graveyard. Both of those are
yeah,
really old wagon roads. And so
right,
they're worn down
yeah,
in between and cut in between deep embankments.
yeah,
And so you were riding on roads that the road beds are very, very old. I mean, we're
yeah,
talking, you know, they're still not paved. They're probably in just,
true,
I don't know if it
yeah,
rained while you were there, but they get pretty rutted after the rain. So
yeah, yeah. I'm pretty sure it's pretty sad, dirty. Like
yeah, yeah.
the sand is all over the place. I saw
It's called
the
a dirt
sand
road
marks.
for a reason.
Yeah, yeah, but these, and then, on the way there, there's also a lot of historical site. Some are right, some are wrong. Because we, through talking with Valerie and Mary, we got to know, uh, there's a lot of just like mislabeled sites. I think one of them was like what's it called, the store, the Valley
The Valley
store,
Store. Okay,
right?
so tell me,
So
so tell me about the Valley Store. What was your first impression? And that's where the Mississippi John Hurt Memorial, the Blues Trail Commission sign was. It's now been removed. I don't know if you know that.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, recently, yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you about that in a
Okay.
bit.
Okay. Yeah, we could. It's kind of complicated. When we gather information around, Valley Store definitely come up as a site that we can use because in our video we have to gather a lot of footage, a lot of videos, like past videos, or just like photographs of different sites that relates to Daddy John's life. And because the world portrayal of things on the internet, people often regard that Valley Store as the important site for Daddy John, but the truth is it's not. So we had to like really,
Why is it not? Did you learn that? Why it's not an important site? Why
because
it
it
had nothing to
was,
do with him?
if I remember this correctly, I remember it was a white owner store that was historically hostile to black, I think either musicians or just like
Black, it was Jim Crow, so
communities.
the laws were such that whites and
Right.
blacks didn't intermingle.
It was simply impossible for Daddy John to perform there. And I was shocked. My team was shocked how this could be like how such an obvious thing was misunderstood or miswritten in the history. Um, whether that's because like personal want, like if somebody wants that to be the like part of the bull trail, or of course, capital
Money,
reasons.
they wanted the money. They wanted people. I mean, that store was, I don't know when it closed, but it has, I mean, maybe 20 years ago, maybe. I don't know, maybe not that long ago.
Yeah.
So the
So
sign is no longer there.
that's good. That's very good.
And the foundation had permission to move it. You knew that. It was supposed to have been moved by October. It was supposed to be out at the museum.
Mm.
The Blues Trail Commission had given Mary Frances and the Hurt Foundation permission to have it moved, and they had been working, or so they thought, with the county commissioner, Josh Hurt, who's their board of supervisor, who's for that district where the store and the house is.
Mm.
And for whatever reason, he kept telling he couldn't move it. He had all these reasons, and then it didn't get moved in October. It didn't get moved in January when it was supposed to. And so the Friday before the museum burned down, I called and asked, uh, when was the sign going to be moved? Why hadn't it been moved, et cetera, et cetera. And I was told by two people, not by the Board of Supervisors member, because he's never called me back. I've called more than 5 times to speak with him and left messages and to no avail. Apparently, he told two other entities that he couldn't move the sign because it's on private property, even though he's directed, but he never told us at the Mount Zion Memorial Fund after our many calls, nor did he tell the foundation or Mary Frances after their many calls. They were still assuming he was going to move it anytime now and just hadn't.
Yeah.
So after the museum burned, the foundation was concerned that the sign might be damaged or stolen. And since they had permission to move it, the foundation went and took the sign to put into safekeeping until they could get the Blues Trail Commission person to install it where it was supposed to go.
Mm.
It is now with Hammond and Associates, the people who will clean up the sign and get it prepared. And there's nothing wrong with the sign other than age. I mean, it's got, moss on it from the pecan tree and, sap and all that just
Yeah.
from being there. I think it had been there like 20 years.
Mm.
And so, but it ups the people who had the Valley Store have made all kinds of accusations. So it's a really contentious situation down there. And I'm glad y'all aren't there right now. That's all I got to say. So it's pretty concerning. There's a lot of animosity right now. And so we're really kind of concerned about the safety of of
Yeah,
all the historic sites down there.
right.
So back to your story, you went down there, or you went to the store, and
Yeah.
then when did you go down to the grave site?
I think it was around afternoon. I can't remember because it was a pretty packed day.
Was that with the
But
march?
yes,
Okay.
I think a lot of like people got into cars and then we drove like all the way to the around the gravesite and then we walked over there in a big crowd. And
Mhm.
then yeah.
And y'all parked on the highway, didn't you? Didn't you have to walk in kind of far?
Yeah, we walked, I think around 5 to 10 minutes
Okay.
and then into the wood.
Okay. So you went down that old county, that's an old county
Yes,
road
yes.
too.
It's
Okay.
very similar to the road that to the way to John Hart
Yeah,
Museum.
almost everybody's roads like that. Once you get off the highways, the county
Yeah,
roads are okay. So you're walking with the marchers. There were people, y'all were singing. It was very organized.
right.
Or you were going down to where the Mount Zion Memorial Fund had installed the new marker to commemorate where the church once stood. That's church that now stands on the Hurt family property.
Hmm.
So when y'all were marching and people were playing music, there were people there from where? All over the world, weren't they? I mean, you're from,
Um, yeah, mostly I think they're from the nearby like states.
uh-huh.
I think we like our team because we come from all over the world. We sort of represent like the different places. But yeah, it was mostly I would say mostly United States, like different states people.
There was a team of journalists from Italy and another team of journalists who I
Mm.
think were
Oh
from,
yeah, I do remember that.
yeah, and a German team was
There's
there.
that.
Yeah.
Some people. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's that.
And then people were from like all over. They were from Arkansas, people came from
Yes. Yes.
Missouri, Louisiana, Texas. There were people from all over that came. So,
Yes.
okay. So they weren't like locals from Carroll County.
No, 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 no. They're like just
Okay.
outside states.
Okay. So now you're marching down there and tell me about what happened and then tell me how you felt.
So we marched down, and then it felt really warm because we were singing like not us, the team, we're not singing, but musicians were singing Daddy John's songs, and kind of just like slowly walk towards there as like a spiritual journey. But people, I think people from the neighborhood wasn't happy about that.
Who was
From
it? Can you describe them or their vehicle?
I I've seen like a couple of them standing on the other side of the walk,
Mhm.
not the
On
walk, the
the other
road,
side of the road.
right? And then they were just staring at us. From like personally, I did not hear them say that go back to your country or go back to where you come from, which was like brought up like by our
Mhm.
professor, our team members. They all heard that, and then I think we got it on video record as
Yes.
well.
Yeah, it's on
But
video.
basically, that happened. People just like they were really hostile towards us who come in to pay respect to the gravesite. And then yeah, it's just very. I
How were they
mean,
hostile to you?
it doesn't feel safe. It feels like like we're here out in the South, and then we're not sure what's going to happen. I've heard that there's like racial discrimination, there's use of guns. So I don't feel safe. I feel like they might just like take out a gun and then start doing something.
Ew.
Um, like, I'm not sure. That's the immediate thoughts I have. Because I know after COVID, there's also a lot of hatred towards Asian communities. And personally, I have faced a lot of like sort
Ew.
of situations, even in Pittsburgh, where they come into my face and then just like talk to me in very aggressive ways.
I am
So
so
I
sorry and I
was,
am so ashamed. I apologize.
yeah,
I'm so sorry.
that's something I kind of immediately relate to when I see hostile, like kind of, even though they're just like kind of staring and then saying words, but
Uh-huh.
that's the feeling I'm getting. Like I'm not sure how to
Can
do
you
that.
can you let me play a clip from that if I
Of
share my
course, of
screen?
course.
It won't take, but it shouldn't take but a second. This should be it. I hope you can see it. Unfortunately, here we go. Ready? So
Yep.
this is this is the graveyard will be over here on the left eventually, and this is on the right. That truck is almost exactly across from the opening to the graveyard. Okay, and then these people, did you see him drive up with his truck? I've also had other people who were there who said they were that the man drove really close and practically ran over some of the participants, like pushed them over
That
his
I'm
truck.
not sure, because I was in the middle or in the back of the crowd.
Okay,
Like I'm not leading the thing.
okay,
So I think my focus there was how do we get this footage? Because we have to like, we're filming
yeah,
things. How do we by footage I mean like the crowd performing and then walking down there.
mhm,
And I was thinking about, hey, what's the next thing? So my attention was there. So I wasn't paying attention to people driving by. I know there's several cars that drove by, but
okay,
I wasn't.
okay. So here's the video. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. So the people are singing.
Hey, nobody, there was no graves on this side over here. They wouldn't have helped. They wouldn't have helped.
So that's that person yelling up above is her.
I see. Yeah, I remember this part because I remember Mary Frances just like got into some sort of argument with people on the other side,
Mhm.
and it continued for a while. Um,
Okay. Well, she was up there saying, you people got a lot of nerve coming here. You need to go home. And then she says, y'all need to go back where you come from. There's no graves over here. That's,
yeah,
I'm sorry. There was also there's some other footage where she said, where the woman up on the hill, uh, says some racial epithets that are I'm not even gonna give airtime to. I'm just not even, it is just so despicable. It just is the worst of humanity sometimes is the loudest. So,
yeah. And it was very intentional, I think, to pick this day and then like, is it practice? Like I'm not sure,
uh-huh.
but it just seems really very intentional to
So you think they
drive
were
down there.
organized they were
I
I've
think
never
so.
seen all those people that were up on that
And
hill that
and
day.
if I remember correctly, they brought their children as well.
Oh, good Lord.
Because I've
Like
seen
like
like
little children?
couple children standing like also on the other side with the parents. So I think it was a family thing. I'm not sure, but I that's what I remember.
That is so ugly. I'm so sorry. So what in that moment, were you scared or were you just
Yeah,
concerned? You
yeah.
were scared.
I'm more scared about like for Mary Frances as well, because it seems like they know each other, seems like they not know each other, like know
Yeah.
about each other.
Recognize each other.
They recognize each other, yeah, I was worried what they might do to her. Like the only reason they're not doing anything to her is because we have such a big crowd. And the crowd
You
sort of work
sincerely
as
felt
like a,
that the size of the crowd prevented
right.
them from,
Yeah, like I feel like if Mary just go there like by herself, there is going to be some sort of hostile action or just like very big argument.
do you
But
feel like
because
her safety is at
I'm
risk?
very much concerned about her safety and the safety of the gravesite as well after what happened. And especially when they bring their family together, like I don't know what to feel. I feel very shocked by like the words like after all my team members say that this is what they say or professors said that. And yeah, it was really surreal even for a no, it's just 2023. That was 2023. It was pretty surreal for a 2023. And then what happened this year, 2024, where the museum was burned down, it was just adding so much layers to this systematic problem. Yeah.
So you guys finished the event for the day.
Yeah.
There was the dedication of the monument,
Right.
which it's really a beautiful setting. I mean, it's a cemetery, but it's in a cathedral of trees. It's
Right.
very pretty. It's up on that high bluff looking down on Avalon.
Yeah.
In John Hurt's last resting place and that of his two sons and his wife and his his wife and his several of his children are and grandchildren are in there. As well as his parents are all buried there. So generations are there.
Right.
And it's endangered. These people that you saw on that hill want to mow it down. They want to
Right.
deforest it. They want to mow it down.
Yeah.
They want to take that land. Mississippi has certain laws. One, that was a county road. You had every right to be on that road. Number two, a cemetery cannot be withheld. The families or the invited mourners or celebrants of a cemetery should have unfettered access, unrestricted access to a gravesite.
Yeah.
So these people clearly don't know the law.
Yeah.
Is it a case of they don't know the law or they don't care? What was your impression?
Like, if I have to say my theory, I feel like they know that maybe like people have access to that, but because they don't want that to happen, such as like such a crowd like going there, they want to take it down for that reason.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's the same reason why, like, the original, like, why Mary has to move the Mississippi John Hurt Museum to this location is because whoever owned that land, even though that's not the correct, like, they don't own it, but because they just took it and own it, they don't want travelers to come by and then
Correct.
visit the site. So that's one of the reasons why like Mary had to move it because otherwise it's gonna burn it down.
Well, the church had actually been moved from that site. I think in the 50s there had been a tornado. And so that church was moved down to Avalon. It was moved down below the hill.
Yeah.
And then she purchased the church and the house and had both of them moved. And the house wasn't very far from the Valley Store. It was down the hill going from the Valley Store toward the turn to her place. And that house was going to be destroyed because the farmer who had that piece of land, it was just
Yeah.
like he was going to get rid of it. So
Right.
that's how she luckily got the house and moved it. But the graveyard, that graveyard has been a graveyard
Yeah. Right.
for since before the Civil War.
Yeah.
And it's I mean, you walk across that hill and you can't help but see the row after row of where there are people clearly buried there,
Right.
but they
It's
don't have
not
headstones
just,
anymore.
Mississippi
It,
John Hurt's family, there's so many other
it's all the
souls.
people who live in Avalon and up in Teoc who were either African American or part Native American, because
Right.
a lot of the community was part Choctaw.
Yeah.
And so that was it was a burial ground for all concerned people of color in that community.
Yes.
And so it's just awful what's happened. And
Yeah.
that one half of that piece of land was just summarily given to that white man in the white truck.
Yeah.
And we can even see, you saw the headstone that's on top of, that they just buried somebody and then the headstone is just, that belongs to an African American is just laying on top of the foot of her grave.
I'm not sure if I've seen that because
Okay.
is it on the other side or
Yeah.
we weren't brought over there.
Okay.
Um,
Well, you are entitled to,
but I heard
yeah,
about
that
it.
would
I
have
did
you
hear.
would have been antagonizing him. Yeah, he's buried his wife on top of a black man. And the county just gave him the land. He owns all the land around that, But he went to the county board of supervisors and petitioned for that piece of land, and they just gave it to him. And then when Mary Frances went back and said, "That's not yours to give, that's my land," they redrew the map, literally took a Sharpie and blacked out that side of the map, pointed to the other side where John Hurt's buried, said, "That's your side." And she said, "I stood right there." She said, "That's not yours to give, but you gave it to him. Give it back to me." And they said, "Oh, you'll have to get a lawyer to get it back." But they didn't need a lawyer to give it to the other man. It's the good old boys at work, it's white male privilege. And I know people will be uncomfortable with me saying that, but I'm just gonna say it. There was a bunch of good old boys who sat around and shook each other's hands and said, "Good idea, we'll give it to you. You can go bury your wife there." And that's literally what happened in like 2009. So that's what Mary Frances has been fighting, just to preserve where her family's buried all this time. And I mean, and clearly on the left side, there's over 50 headstones.
Yeah.
So did you walk back to John Hurt's grave while you were there?
Yes, we walked down. I think it was on like a flatter side of the grave site, and then yeah, we sit around, and then musicians play songs, sing tributes to Daddy John's life. Yeah.
Oh, wow. How moving.
Yeah, it was really touching. I think that was like one of the moments where we felt that music was so powerful. And we believe why Mary wants to tell a lot of the stories through music because it really brings everyone together. Uh, yeah, yeah, the language wasn't an issue, like the song keeps everything going.
So you then left when y'all finished and y'all left for the day. Were those people still across the road watching you?
I think so, but I can't be 100% sure. They were there for a while at least, but I'm not sure if they're still there when we leave, but they're still there when we enter the gravestone, like the gravesite.
Were they still loud and disrespectful when she was trying to announce the commemoration, the announce and show the new history headstone for the site of the church?
They were there staring at us, but I don't think there's more arguments there.
Uh-huh.
Maybe Mary like go and talk to like kind of shout to the other side another time, but there isn't like direct hostile
Okay,
or
so they
conflict.
at least were respectful when y'all were trying to
No,
accomplish
they're
something.
they're yeah, they're staring.
They were there staring, which
Yeah,
is
and
unnerving. What was
no,
their
yeah,
body
yeah,
language?
very.
What was their body language like?
They weren't like doing anything. They were just like kind of standing there, and then
Were their
like
arms, body language means like closed, open, very closed, very open, or you
I
just tried
don't,
not to look?
sorry. Yeah, I can't say I remember that. My attention again was mostly on the gravesite, and then how people are reacting, how people are like, what's being said in those like, yeah. Sorry.
Okay, so when you were walking down there before the dedication and the people were yelling and being rude, w- how did that, so it seemed like everything was very respectful and prayerful, almost very meditative,
Yeah.
walking and listening to the music and singing. What was your perception of how that changed the experience for the other people who were there?
You mean for the man who owned the truck or
So for the crowd that was walking
for the
along,
crowd?
so they're
Um,
singing, they're meditative,
right.
they're respectful, they're thinking of John Hurt and the impact his life has had. Then these people start yelling. How did that change what happened? Because you can see in the video, I see something. I want to hear what you saw, what you saw in the crowd.
Yeah. I think people were just like looking at them because they started this argument or they start shouting, and then people are like kind of they're not sure what's happening because it's we're doing this like very spiritual thing, and then we're
Mhm.
walking down, there's people singing music, and that seems like a very direct like disruption of what we're doing.
So it
And
took
then
people out of that reverie. They were,
yes, definitely, because you see argument, like people are very natural when they see like arguments and they're like, oh, okay, what's going on here? And then you see the leader of our, this crowd, which is the musician and Mary Frances, arguing with the other person, like things are really
Mhm.
like the tension is there. And that definitely like kind of brings the crowd down a little bit,
Mhm.
just because there's confusion, there's like not sure. Um, but yeah, yeah, it's I think yeah.
um, so then y'all went to the event, and then after everything was done, did y'all all march back out together, or did the people just wander out at their leisure?
We walked out together as a crowd, and then we got back to the cars and then drove back to Mississippi Junction Museum
Uh-huh.
afterwards. Yeah.
Were people still processing, talking about the experience, or were they talking and processing about John Hurt afterwards?
They're mostly talking about Jumper. So yeah, fortunately they're mostly talking about
That's good.
Jumper, the music. I think our team members sort of mentioned something like that, like among ourselves, because we're sitting in the one car.
Mhm.
Well, our attention mostly were still on Jumper
Mhm.
instead of this incident, because this seems like less significant. At that time, it was like I think not all of us heard exactly what they said, whether that's like accent or just like like how clear they like pronounce these
Mhm.
things. But yeah, we most our attention was how this is a
Mhm.
touching event, how we were like emotionally uh like kind of what's it called, touched
Mhm.
by the songs and then the experience of walking together to the gravesite and then listening to Mary Frances talk about how they were able to like establish like have like a sign for
Uh-huh.
the gravesite.
Yeah. So we're moving the Mississippi John Hurt Blues Trail marker. It appears that we're going to put it there. The
Hmm.
Mississippi Blues Trail Commission thinks that that's the best place for it, since so many people come there, and they're looking to see if they have to redo some of the sign because it's so old, that they want to relaminate it and redo and they want to add either a map or something. They're starting to do some QR codes, but it would give a map to go back to where the church and the museum. And
Hmm.
so hopefully through the GoFundMe that Mary Frances's organization, the Mississippi John Hurt Foundation, has created, they are raising funds to rebuild the museum. Of course, it will never be exactly the same
Yeah,
because so much of
yeah,
the memorabilia is
yeah,
gone, but being able to rebuild will create another museum and and continue to preserve his legacy.
yeah.
So and part of that now is thanks to your creation and the project your team did that's sitting in the church now. Um, would you go back to Mississippi?
Yeah, I think because this experience, but I mean, with the museum burned down, of course, it's very painful. It's one less reason to go there, even though like the site itself, because it's burned down, it's more important now. But there's less thing to see because I want to go back as like a family sitting. I want to take my girlfriend there. I want to take my family there if they ever come visit. Um, yeah, it's just, I definitely want to go.
Well, if you bring them, I'll come meet them.
Yeah,
I'll
sounds good.
drive over and hang out with them.
Sounds good. I need to learn how to drive first because you
You
can't
don't
go there.
drive.
I don't drive. See, that's how big city boy I am. I don't drive
Yeah.
at all. I use public transportation.
Yeah.
Um, and also interestingly, for the second trip, we go down to the museum. We drove all the way from Pittsburgh to uh, Avalon
Uh-huh.
because we don't want to waste money shipping our like
Yeah,
TVs
yeah.
and equipment, and it just became cheaper that way. But that also turned into uh like a pilgrimage. like driving like I think 12 hours, something
Yeah,
like that,
it's about 12
all the way
hours.
down.
Yeah,
Uh,
maybe a little bit
yeah,
more.
it feels more important, more significant as like a life experience. Uh,
I think that's awesome. I
yeah.
hope I hope you come back to Mississippi.
Oh, yeah.
You have to come to the other side of the state and come hang out with me. I'm on the east. That's the west side. I'm on the east side. And
Got it.
we have our own blues history.
Yeah.
It's not as long and as, we don't have as many artists, but we have quite a few.
Mm,
Um, Book of White, um, uh, we have Big Joe Williams and Maurice King and some others, seminal authors, seminal musicians over there. But and a lot of them left and went up to Chicago. So there's
yeah.
that's that diasporic thing. So it's kind of cool. But
Mm.
anyways,
I
our side
think
of
we
the state's a
drove
little
by,
is a little
sorry,
different.
we drove by Mount Zion, like a site as well. I
Uh-huh.
think it was a church site.
Yeah, it's where we took our name from.
Mm, yeah.
It's where Robert Johnson's allegedly buried. One of like
Yeah.
a dozen places, but it's kind of like the crossroads. Everybody claims that their crossroads is the crossroads. So
Yeah.
it's a standing joke among us. I want to thank you for coming on the Tom Baby Tales, and I encourage people to go out to the church and to see while the John Hurt home is gone and will hopefully be rebuilt soon, but the museum is still you can still go in the church and see where John Hurt spent most of his life, because the church was not just for worship, it was also the school. It
Yeah.
was also the center of social activity, and it was the social gathering place. So it was a social venue for the community. And
Yeah.
so he would have played not just church hymns, he would have played music of different types there. And he also his gravesite is just about 2 miles away. So I encourage people to come to Mississippi, and you'll see what Cy saw, and
Yeah.
experience dirt roads and it's beautiful music. So
And I do want to add on to that if I can. So when we first entered the church, Mary talked about how there's so many souls that's like in the church, and at that moment I really felt that uh, the wooden structure, all those like very uh, how do you say that? Like the entire environment of the church really makes me feel like wow, like this is historical. This is so many
it's a very
people's
organic
life.
feeling. I can't
Right.
explain it any other way. It's just
It's
organic.
very like you're walking on the road where you're in the site where so many generation of like kind of people cross over with each other, and that was just very powerful. Same way as how Daijong's like the museum itself,
Mhm.
the house that he lived, but unfortunately that has been the history now.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for coming on Tom Bigby
Thank you.
Tales, and thank you for sharing your experience. I'm hopefully going to talk to one of your professors soon and get his viewpoint of what happened
Sounds
and
good.
his experience. And before we go, do
Yeah.
you have anything you want to say to Mary Frances?
I hope she stays strong as always. I hope, like, I know this is such a traumatizing uh, news or what happened. I hope she stays strong. I hope um, she just, get through this and then let's see a more powerful Mary Frances.
Yeah. For such a tiny little woman, she's got a heart of steel. I don't,
Yeah, she has so
she,
much power.
she does. She's pretty amazing. And I'm very proud to call her my friend. So,
Yeah,
and I'm proud to call you my friend too. So I thank you so
thank you,
much.
Shannon.
And I'm very proud of you. And I'm very proud of the project you guys produced. It is absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you again. And
Yes.
Thank you to my listeners on the Tombigbee Tales. Until next time. That should be it. So thank you so much. If there's
Mhm.
anything I can do for you, if it's write a recommendation letter,
Yeah.
anything you need, all you have to do is ask Cy. You're a good man.
Thank you, Shannon. Good luck with the podcast.